Ange Postecoglou is not safe at the club. No decision has been made yet, but Marco Silva and Thomas Frank seem the target. So let's talk about that, guys. Well, Fabrizio Romano said on his YouTube channel, no final decision has been made, but it's gonna come very soon. Tottenham spoke for sure internally about two potential candidates. One is Marco Silva at Fulham, and the other one is Thomas Frank at Brentford. And to give you guys my opinion, I think once you start talking, we start to talk or we start considering very seriously new managers, is because it's probably because your current manager is like a dead man walking. Eventually he will fall. I've also seen that Marco Silva is linked to Juventus. So I don't know if Tottenham is trying to approach him as soon as possible to like solve the situation before he goes to Juventus to see if he's interested in the job. I really don't know. And Thomas Frank, like some other reports say that Thomas Frank is on talk already with Tottenham Hotspur, but like I took Fabrizio Romano reports because he is very reliable when it comes to transfer market, all of those things. Between those two managers, I have one that I prefer the most. But before that, let's briefly talk about Ange and summarize his past seasons. So guys, season 23-24, Ange had an amazing start, rescued the happiness of watching Tottenham with entertaining football. And that is clear because even non-supporters, even people who don't like Spurs, were watching Spurs. Everyone was like, it's nice to watch Tottenham again. And that is hard to measure in numbers. But like the feeling of waking up and knowing that I will watch good football when it comes to Tottenham, it was just so good at that time. But by the end of his first season, we were already seeing hints that Ange Ball wasn't being so effective anymore. And in the last 10 PL matches in that season, we had 4 wins, 1 draw, and 5 losses, conceding 19 goals in 10 games. It's almost like 2 goals per game, which is horrible defensively. And in that period, they scored 15 goals. But like that is not surprised because Ange is very good at like attacking. When the team needs to attack, it is very efficient. At the end of the season, Tottenham didn't qualify for the Champions League, but for a first season, it was a very promising start. And I remember this, that I said to my friends, next season, which would be 24-25, I believe Tottenham will fight for top 4 in the league. And they were like, no, I think it will be like top 7. They're inconsistent defensively, and that will punish them in the long run. But I believed that was possible. And then the season starts, season 24-25. Although people say that Tottenham started the season well, numbers don't lie. First 11 PL matches, 5 wins, 1 draw, 5 losses, losing points to Leicester, Palace, Brighton and Ipswich, 2 teams that ended up being relegated. I remember in the beginning of the season, people saying it's not a big problem, like they're only, I don't know, 2-3 points behind Arsenal, Liverpool, I don't know, and then they're only 5 points behind, then they're only 6 points away of the top 4, and then they're 10 points, 12 points, 15 points, and they basically kept getting worse and worse. It is fair to say that the club didn't back Ange in the transfer window. It was obvious that the squad needed to sign at least 2 defenders. It was, in my opinion, it was 3, but like 2 defenders was the bare minimum, and they didn't sign anyone apart from like youngsters. But like you can't rely on teenagers to save you in the Premier League, like the most difficult league in the world, literally. And that became clearer with the start of the injury crisis. And the season ends with an Europa League trophy, like a Europa League trophy. And at the same time with the 17th position in the Premier League, which is atrocious. So would you sack Ange or would I sack Ange? Yes, but I wouldn't go for Marco Silva, as I can't. For me, it's very hard to see him in a long-term project with Tottenham. Personally, I would go for Thomas Frank if I needed to pick between Ange, Thomas Frank and Marco Silva. I see more potential in Thomas Frank. Like, he's been overachieving with the 2nd lowest wage bill in the league, which is bizarre. The 2nd lowest wage bill. Like, what? That is massive. And it's not like he plays horrible defensive football. He actually puts his team to be very adaptive, which is very impressive considering they don't have an amazing squad. I personally wonder what would Thomas Frank wants to do with this Tottenham squad, because at Brentford he doesn't choose to have an identity, in the sense that it's not like he wants to play the same style every single game. He is very adaptive, but they keep scoring a lot of goals, which is very impressive. If the fan base wants someone who is offensive but at the same time more adaptable, I think Thomas Frank would be very good. And if Tottenham don't take this opportunity to sign him, I think he will be in a Big Six club eventually, or maybe go to Germany or something like that, because I remember him being linked to Bayern in the past, Liverpool. So it's not like he's we found out him today. Like, no, he's been linked to other clubs as well. That said, if I could choose other options, I would go for Xavi, De Zerbi, Thiago Motta, and Iraola first. Like in the ideal world, let's say. And why, you may ask? I would go for Xavi and Thiago Motta because I think they would get instant respect from the squad, because they are legends, as like they were legends as players, which helps a lot in the adaptation. Because if you sign, let's say, a manager that is very good, that wasn't like a very big player, like he needs to convince the squad and then starts to put his tactics. By the way, I'm not saying that is right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's something that happens, and we have like infinite reports saying that players usually listen more to former football players. Iraola and De Zerbi are used to PL intensity, and I think that is also very important, because we're talking about adaptation. Tactically speaking, all of them play either 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, but Xavi and Thiago Motta prefer positional attack, which means that they want to settle. They want to go to the attack. Like, they want all the players to fit on the boxes in specific places on the attack, and then start to build something, start to create, start to look for opportunities. Whereas De Zerbi, for example, his attack it seems like a counter-attack. They keep the possession, but they attract the opposition to next to the defense, and then they like pass, and boom, goal. Iraola is way more adaptive, like, compared to those three, because Iraola, I don't know if you know this, but like in Spain he was called El Matador de Gigantes, like it's an amazing nickname. And that's because even against like big clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, Villarreal, etc., like he used to be very difficult to beat, and he coached like Rayo Vallecano. It's not like he coached Betis, which is like a second tier big club in Spain, for example. Talking about possibility, I think Iraola is the easiest to sign between those four, and comparing to Thomas Frank, I don't think it's like way harder to sign Iraola compared to Thomas Frank, because they're both in a Premier League club, like they both live in England anyway, so in theory it's the same level of difficulty, I imagine. But anyway, just to summarize, if I had to choose between Thomas Frank, Marco Silva, and Ange, I would go for Thomas Frank. If I could pick someone in the Premier League in general, I would go for Iraola. And if I could choose between all of those options that I said, I would go for Xavi, De Zerbi, Iraola, Thiago Motta, like in this order. But that was it, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, share it with your friends if you think I have said anything useful, please. And see you the next time. Bye.